Making money is easy when you know when it's time to take profits and lock in gains. But that's the hardest part of all. Buying's easy, waiting can be torture, but relatively easy. It all comes down to knowing when to sell. And this video is going to show you when I am eyeing off taking profits on my altcoins, locking some gains in, and then looking to possibly reinvest. Now, before I get into it, guys, I've got to say, I know a lot of you are probably asking yourselves right now, are thinking, Kyron, why on earth are we looking at taking profits and locking in gains when we're not even break even right now? Well, as I was always told, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to try to be scrunging together a plan in the next few months, looking at locking in profits when we can organize this now and be ahead of everyone else. So it's going to start with looking into charts like this, diving into some of these very important patterns we're noticing. We're going to look at some of the ways we can take profits without relying on things like this, indicators, and again, diving much, much deeper into some very important zones. You will get the full picture today. You will have a very good idea of knowing when it is time to take profits, whether the market goes into alt season or it's just a minor altcoin pump. Stay tuned. Let's begin. If you watched last night's video, you might be accustomed to this chart. And to cut a long story short, we're looking at others versus Bitcoins and their dominance. So in these green zones, that's alt season. In these red zones, that's Bitcoin season. And you can see we have some very similar patterns playing out, particularly if you're familiar with Elliot wave theory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a full bullish impulse pattern. 1, 2, 3, or ABC, we have a corrective pattern here. Okay, and this has played out the last 1 and 2 bull runs. Exactly the same. And what's happening right now is we're actually squeezing into this descending wedge like what happened over here back in 2019 right now. You can see here on this last and final corrective C wave, we're getting closer and closer to when we're likely, hopefully, able to see a breakout to the upside for altcoins. It is a bullish pattern after all, which we could possibly have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 wave impulse pattern. Now you're asking, why is that important to look at, Kyron? Well, again, that's altcoins versus Bitcoin. So the question came up recently on one of the private community live streams where, is there a way in which we, roughly speaking, know what altcoins go up in what wave? And what I'm talking about here is, again, the different impulse pattern waves. We have pattern 1 or wave 1 here, which is impulse, so it's bullish. We have the second wave here, which is always bearish. We have the third wave, which is usually the largest wave, and this is an impulse bullish wave. Fourth wave, bearish, and the last and final wave, the fifth wave, is always bullish, but usually always smaller than this massive third wave. You can see this also played out over here back in the previous cycle. Okay, so wave 1, bullish, bearish, massive wave 3, very bullish, bearish, and bullish. So is it possible for us to look at taking profits in wave 3 and wave 5? Well, the answer is yes, and there are a set of altcoins that actually do better in these different waves. And again, just to remind you all, this is what we're trying to eye off happening here now. Again, so with wave 3 and wave 5, these are the main two waves that we would be eyeing off to take some of our profits off the table to essentially hit our targets, right? And I want to talk about why wave 1, okay, which is again a bullish wave, really won't be used, at least from what I'm guessing right now, to take some serious profit off the table. And I'll get to that here in just 1 second with a clear plan. But essentially, the third wave and the fifth wave look a bit differently. And it's kind of like the path to alt season chart, where people talk about money flowing from large caps into smaller caps and then micro caps and so on. It's essentially that playing out, where we can see a coin like the Binance Smart Chain. The Binance Smart Chain, if we focus in here to the last bull run, you can see in this third wave, it actually had its all-time high first. If we have a look at another large cap back then as well, Chainlink had its all-time high in this third wave, not the fifth wave. XRP had its all-time high again in that third wave, not the fifth wave. So you can see some patterns playing out here. Essentially, what I'm saying is large caps like to have their pumps in this third wave and not so much the fifth wave, okay? And again, that kind of plays into this. If we look at some small caps back in the previous cycle, being Near Protocol, again, Near Protocol had its all-time high in that fifth and final wave. So did Render, being a small cap back then as well. Okay, now there are some contingencies, there are some variables to this that don't always play out. And this is where the second phase of kind of what I'm going to be looking at here to exit my altcoin positions, which is narratives. And this is looking at the coins as groups, as kind of like herds together. Gaming coins, AI coins, DePIN coins, Layer 1 coins, DeFi coins, okay, the list goes on, because all these coins like to have their all-time highs together. And that's just simply because if there is a massive announcement, say NVIDIA has a great earnings report, or let's say BlackRock, for example, starts using Ondo, it's just going to draw attention into the different areas of crypto. Therefore, it's going to pump that entire market as retail goes, oh, I better not miss out on this massive pump or this narrative, and they just buy into any coin in that area. It's exactly, as you could see previously, what played out in the previous cycle. And the reason why I'm saying this is going back to a chart like this, Solana and Cardano, both large caps in the previous cycle, okay, they actually had their all-time highs in that fifth and final wave. So you can see here, this third wave, they did have pumps, would have been a great time to take some profit, but again, their all-time highs came after in that fifth wave. So what I'm personally doing overall is using both of these to, roughly speaking, gauge when it's time to take profits on some altcoins. And this is why I've been saying for the longest time, guys, most people cannot handle owning more than 10 altcoins in their portfolio. Trying to manage this to different narratives, to different announcements, tokenomics, and again, just simply logistics behind selling their altcoins, it's impossible if you have a full-time job and you have more than 10 altcoins, in my personal opinion, to do it adequately. But here's how I think you can kind of play the narrative game and this sort of Elliot wave pattern that is likely to play out again because it has played out the last two bull runs. In my opinion, again, using this first wave, this kind of first wave here that I haven't really mentioned all that much, and especially haven't mentioned taking any profit on. And it's using this first wave to do what I think we're all thinking right now, which is just getting back to break even, but getting back to break even on the coins that you have no conviction in. You lost any of that sort of trust you had on the coin, or maybe the favorite influencer you've been listening to stops talking about. Whatever your reason is, you've lost conviction in the coin. In this first wave, as altcoins show strength again, maybe possibly taking a break-even stance on that coin, okay? So again, sell losers, break even on this first move here. Now, importantly, there are some characteristics that will play out. I do think based on the last one and the last two bull runs, we're likely going to see this first wave here break the neckline of this particular move here. So that's what I would be eyeing off, is for altcoins to break that move, and then at any moment we likely could expect the wave 2 to play out. Now, wave 2 will definitely pull back. It won't pull back as far as where we are right now, because if it did, it would actually invalidate the Elliot wave theory, so that should not happen. At least you'd like to think so. Anything could possibly happen. But in this move down here, I'm going to be rebalancing my portfolio. So like I said, selling some losers in wave 1, ideally making some profit, but at least breaking even. Wave 2 is taking that capital and putting it into the winners, particularly here where phase 3 comes in, putting it into mid to large caps. Mid to large caps, as I mentioned to you guys before, just historically speaking, are the ones that tend to pump the most in a wave 3 over here. Once that's done, again, take some profits off the table. This is where some narrative conversations will have to come into the mix, because if, for example, I've got AI altcoins, my AI altcoins have hit most of my target sell levels, but there's maybe 1 or 2 sell levels still lingering. My plan is, if they've had their narrative pump, let's say NVIDIA's had a great earnings report, let's say Meta and all these other companies announced these great plans for AI. Now AI coins have pumped up and it's been great, and we still have some of our sell levels on the table. What I'll personally be doing is just calling it and taking all my profits off the table. It's literally as simple as that. And the reason being is because we're likely going to have wave 4 come, which is a corrective wave. Now, again, this is going to be this point over here. And at that point in time, any of the missing profits you would have made, I will at least be looking to reinvest them back down into here for, you guessed it, some of those mid to micro caps that, again, maybe like, Near Protocol over here, where let's just, for example, say that they have already made some gains like this in this pump, okay? There's likely going to be a retracement over here like this. It's just a part of markets. It's a healthy pullback. And in Render's case, it went from $1.80, okay? It went down here to 44 cents. From 44 cents, it went to its all-time high at that point in time, which was $7. So it like 15x'd in this period. So it's looking for the strong mid to large cap, or again, even small cap altcoins that haven't really super exploded, ideally in narratives that again haven't exploded either, and kind of betting some of the missing gains into those coins. Now, like I said, in the third wave and the fifth wave, what we want to do here is have sell levels already set up. That's the smart thing to do. Of course, you want to be ready, your hand on the trigger, so to speak, because again, if we do go into a fourth wave here and we've fully extended the third, or especially the fifth wave, you want to be as much in profit as you can, so you don't want to be hanging around for a massive, fake imaginary pump. So it's important to set up sell levels now. And that is using something called the GGR zones here. Now, what are the GGR zones? It's the green, it's the gray, and it's the red zones. Now, how you incorporate this, being someone who's retail, who may listen to people on YouTube, is if you ever hear a price prediction and you do your own research and you think it's realistic, or you come up with a price that you think the coin can realistically go to, and I would not financially recommend people be more conservative, so on the safer side of things, if you're not too sure, of course, is to use a price. Let's just say, for example, we're talking about Render. And let's say someone's price prediction for Render is $150. Now, what you would do is you would use a tool like this, and you would come from that price prediction, you would come down 25%. This is your red zone. This is your liquid zone where likely you're not going to be able to sell. In the best case, if Render does go to $150 at an all-time high, there's no way you're able to sell up here. The order books thin out, everyone begins trying to sell at the same time, you end up getting out much, much lower. It is not a good look, okay? So essentially, you go down 25%, and that's your no-go zone. Then from 25 to 35% in this gray zone, that's your buffer zone. It's no man's land. Essentially, you use that because no one really knows where price is going to, okay? It's still a price prediction at that. So essentially, from $100, we're now down here to the top of the green zone, being around about $100. So the way you need to look at this is any coins you decide to sell in wave 3 or wave 5 needs to be well within, again, the green zone. So for Render, it's $100 here. And so in that case, if I'm going to apply, again, sell level, so I'm going to actually go to, again, one of the tools we have in the private community. Let's say I've bought Render for an average of $7. Let's say I have 1,000 tokens. And again, we know that the limit here is $100, again, top of the green zone. I'm going to go, okay, well, I'm happy getting out at $80, roughly speaking. So what this tool does is actually create a whole bunch of these different sell levels for us, okay? These whole entire sell plans all automated after these 3 numbers. So what I'm going to do is come into here and go to the one that actually suits my plan. So this gives us a whole bunch of sell levels, $60, $72, $80, up to $88. And again, how much to sell to get out at fully break even, but do so with minimal risk and minimal upside risk. Okay, so what this looks like is, again, punching this back into here, and these white lines now become our actual sell levels. So what I'm trying to say is, in conjunction with using this Elliot wave pattern, we're likely going to see, it's not guaranteed, but likely going to see, and the narrative pumps, you still want to be secure with looking at actually setting up, these sell levels for your coins, just in case you're out doing something, for God's sake, something bad happens and you're in a hospital, okay? You want to make sure that you're safeguarded with having clear sell levels in place. So again, as the coin begins ramping up, if, Render, for example, or Nia hits your sell levels, you're all out and you're okay. Even if that might come later on, you're all out. With that said, that is covering taking profits on the way up. And as today stands, what we can expect the market to do. Okay, anything's possible. Trump could tweet something tomorrow, crashes, and things don't turn out the way we expect. But of course, in that case, that is why I am here. That is why any good investor always changes their thesis depending on what happens with the market. So your best bet, I'll keep you informed if things change. But as it stands, this is my plan based on the last 2 bull runs. But I want to talk about, again, what happens actually if the market starts turning over in a bearish state while we're somewhere in no man's land here between the current state of the waves, right? So where we are right now in like this bearish last C wave to somewhere in this next bullish impulse pattern. And that's looking at this chart. This chart, I'm going to be quick here because these charts won't be publicly available to you guys because I custom made them for the guys in the private community, which will be released sometime soon, okay? So I will keep it quick, but these are important for you to eye off, and I will be bringing you updates on the channel, of course, right? So the first one here is looking at the others versus stable coins, or I'm calling this the O versus FO. chart, or others versus stablecoin flow oscillator. Right? Just sounded quite nice. Either way, in this red zone, that's when stablecoins don't have enough purchasing power to send the price of others, which is altcoins, any higher. That's why we likely have a pullback in this red zone. You can see every time we've gone into the red zone, it's given us a pullback soon after. This is, again, others chart up over here. Okay, this is others. Now, when this chart's down here where it is right now in the green zone, that's when stable coins have a lot of leeway, a lot of strength, and the market cap is relatively bigger than others. Now, why that's so important is because if we make a move from here and this continues on this trend, that's a very good sign, because when we do have a blow-off moment like we had here, here, and here, that means the market cap for others, altcoins in general, are likely going to go very, very high. Why this is extra important, and you need to know this, is because as we're seeing it right now, the Genius and the Stable Act are being passed and have actually been passed in the US, which means more people will have access to stable coins. And if I zoom in, you can see just how fast the stablecoin market cap in white here is growing. Now, when that grows, this plateaus. And when we do eventually have alt season, when this goes up, again, that's going to send our altcoins up even more. Essentially, we just have more purchasing power because the stablecoin market cap is skyrocketing. So when this is in the red zone, that's another signal for me to look to take some profits. And I dare say this may actually come as we do have the conclusion of one or multiple of these bullish impulse waves, either 1, 3, and 5. Ideally, all 3. Now, as you know, I've created a tool called the Bitcoin Cycle Clock. It allows us to track here in these red zones, especially dark red, when Bitcoin is overbought. Now, when it's overbought, that to me is a signal that it's going to go down. Now, Bitcoin going down, contrary to popular belief, doesn't mean altcoins go up. Bitcoin going down means alts go down even more. So looking at Bitcoin as a rough barometer for altcoins is one thing I'll be doing. And again, I'll keep you guys updated. I mean, okay, you're here on YouTube, but you're also part of the family. So don't get me wrong. I'll be talking about this, but anything can possibly happen. It all makes sense until it doesn't. So just keep these in mind. I will, of course, be eyeing all of these very important indicators off to assist you. If anything changes, you will hear about it. So guys, thank you for making it the whole way through the video. If you have enjoyed, if you have learned anything, and if you have been able to apply any of these exit plans to your own portfolio and to your own strategies, let me know with a like down there. I'm thinking for today's emoji, we do something a little bit different, and we do the heart emoji. So hit me with a heart emoji down there if you made it this far. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.